Number 4. Profiling in an essential needs assessment. How many are in need and who are they? In this 4th video of the Essential Needs Assessment Insight series, we will deepen the technical discussion to understand how to estimate the number of people in need and what profiling is in an essential needs assessment. Defining the number of people in need. How do you estimate how many people are in need through an essential needs assessment? A first step is categorizing them into different vulnerability tiers: severely vulnerable, moderately vulnerable, or not vulnerable. In an in-depth essential needs assessment, a combination of indicators, as outlined in the 3rd video, is used to establish the vulnerability tiers. In most cases, these are the Ekman indicator, the LCSI, and the FCS. The final choice of indicators depends on the prevailing operational context and data availability. Next, you can calculate how many people in your sample belong to each vulnerability tier. Note that you can estimate the number of people in need under 2 conditions. First, the sample needs to be statistically representative of your population of interest. Second, you need to have secondary information on the actual size of the population in the area you are looking at. With this information, you can infer the number of people in each vulnerability tier in the population. Profiling vulnerable households. Now you know how many people are vulnerable, but who are they? You can describe them through analyzing what characteristics the households in each vulnerability tier have. This process is called profiling and is a key output of an essential needs assessment. Once vulnerability profiles are identified, they are used for defining targeting criteria. Needs-based targeting ensures WFP's assistance is aimed to help the right people in the right place, at the right time, and in the right way. When not all needs can be met due to resource shortfalls, which is often the operational reality of WFP, prioritization within targeted groups is required, which again is done on the basis of the vulnerability profiles identified. Let us unpack the process of profiling further. Once households have been sorted by vulnerability tiers, you can move to the description part. This is done by exploring the socioeconomic and demographic characteristics of households that fall into each vulnerability tier. These characteristics are then narrowed down to a set of characteristics that best determine the profile of those vulnerable households. These can be observable, such as household size, as well as unobservable, such as lack of income. Verifying the characteristics of vulnerability profiles. The process of finding the best determining characteristics of vulnerability profiles differs by the type of essential needs assessment. In an in-depth essential needs assessment which collects representative quantitative data, statistical tests can be undertaken to check for correlation between variables related to vulnerability and other variables that describe household characteristics. For example, a chi-square test can be conducted to see if vulnerability correlates with the sex of the household head. If they are significantly correlated, it is reasonable to assume that the sex of the household head is a determining characteristic for the household's vulnerability. In a rapid essential needs assessment, sometimes no representative quantitative data is available. In this case, qualitative tools such as focus group discussions or key informant interviews are used to roughly estimate the people in need and verify which household characteristics best determine the vulnerability profiles. The most commonly used elements include household size, education level of head of household, number of income sources, and asset ownership. Beware, without representative data, results can be rough estimates only, however, are still useful for program decisions that require immediate action. We will discuss each of these examples in more detail through the real case studies presented in the next video. To learn more about essential needs assessment, visit the VAM Resource Center, where you will find the complete guidance, as well as other relevant resources and practical tools to help you with your work.